time and money. Right now, get up to $1,500 off select major kitchen appliances because Lowe's knows savings. Lowe's knows pros. Valid 8/24 through 9/13. Exclusions apply while supplies last. See Lowe's.com for details.
This is the KBLA Sports Minute with Ray Richardson.
I'm a bad man.
Today is the semifinal round in the women's bracket in the U.S. Open tennis tournament. Coco Gauff, the 19-year-old sister from Delray Beach, Florida, is making a strong run for her first Grand Slam title. Coco faces Carolina Muchova of the Czech Republic at 4 p.m. today in Arthur Ashe Stadium. The Rams made it official. Wide receiver Cooper Kupp will not play in their season opener Sunday at Seattle. Kupp is still trying to recover from a hamstring injury he suffered in training camp on August 1st. The Dodgers are 1-5 in September after losing by 7 last night in Miami. Dodgers pitcher Lance Lynn gave up 3 home runs in the 5th inning. Lynn has been tagged for 40 homers this season, tops in the major leagues. This is also a troubling time for Dodgers pitcher Julio Urias. Major League Baseball put him on administrative leave after his arrest Sunday for felony domestic violence. No debates, no speculation, just the info you need. That's your KBLA Sports Minute. I'm Ray Richardson on KBLA Talk 1580.
KBLA Talk 1580 is dedicated to empowering our communities by providing progressive talk radio for our audience. We strive to be an intersectional voice for the voiceless. As a Black-owned and operated station, we are committed to highlighting diverse perspectives and creating safe spaces for meaningful dialogue. We believe that everyone has something unique to bring to these political, economic, social, and cultural conversations, and we don't shy away from the hard conversations about current events. We endeavor to be a beacon of hope and understanding, while boldly challenging listeners to think more deeply about difficult topics that impact us all. With this in mind, our mission statement at KBLA Talk 1580 is simple: to create an inclusive platform that promotes civil discourse through honest dialogue and encourages personal growth among our listeners, so they can become the active agents of change. Our vision is to establish ourselves as the premier radio network with relevant programming across the beloved community, connecting people through shared experiences and collective power for lasting impact beyond these challenging times.
I'm Tavis Smiley. Delighted to have you in with us in this hour. Who's that? Christopher Williams? Yeah. If I'm dreaming, just let me sleep. Don't wake me up till my dream is complete. In this hour, a conversation about being punished for dreaming. Being punished for dreaming. How school reform harms black children and how we heal. Thank you to Miles Lowe for pulling up a track that ushers us nicely into this conversation with the author of that book, Punished for Dreaming, How School Reform Harms Black Children and How We Heal, Dr. Bettina L. Love. Dr. Love, can you appreciate Miles' work right there on that track?
I appreciate that. You took me back.
Took us all back. That was a nice track from Christopher Williams. I hadn't heard that in a while, so I'm glad Miles pulled that up. Let me just jump right in. And I said to the audience the other day, we have a couple of great authors on the program today. There are a couple times in the year, having written a few books myself, there are a couple times in the year when the publishing world drops a bunch of new content, new books come out, and September is one of those months. The September list is a big list. A lot of books come out in the month of September. So if you're hearing some great conversations on this program in this month, it's because there are a lot of great new books that are coming out right about now, as happens, as I mentioned a moment ago, annually in this country. So a number of great conversations on tap for the rest of today's show. But we start in this hour with Dr. Bettina L. Love and her new book, Punished for Dreaming, How School Reform Harms Black Children and How We Heal. Let me just jump right in, make the most of this hour that we have, and I'm glad we got it now because there's a whole lot to interrogate about this book, Dr. Love, and I thank you for writing it. Let me just start with a point blank and direct question. Is there now, and has there been for some time now, a war on black children as you see it?
Yes. I mean, let's be real. The data tells us that. What we know in our bodies tells us that. What our common sense tells us that. Yes, there's a war on black children in this country. There's a war on black people in this country. So why wouldn't there be a war on black people, on black children? Mm-hmm. But I think we don't think our schools would do that, right? Mm-hmm. We think our schools are places of justice, our places of love, and they are. I know many teachers, I know many schools who are wonderful and great and loving and kind places, but our systems and our policies and our reforms make schools anti-black. And this book really wants to interrogate how educational policies that are supposed to be benevolent and benign and supposed to pull people up are actually punishing our children for being black and being young.
Dr. Bettina L. Love is the William F. Russell Professor at Teachers College at Columbia University. And so she knows what she speaks of, and she writes a book called Punished for Dreaming. Let me just, we'll go here first. Unpack for me the genesis, if you will, of this war specifically on black children by our schools.
So there's a few entry points I think we should start. The first entry point, I think, is we should start with integration, Brown versus the Board of Education. So 1954 is this landmark case that we are going to integrate, desegregate schools. Mm-hmm. And the backlash of Brown is something I don't think we have ever even wrestled with as black people or as a democracy in this country, what happened after Brown. Mm. So we have to first go before Brown. Before Brown, we had an extraordinary, fascinating, amazing black educators who were highly credentialed, highly qualified. And we have research by Linda Tillman that tells us about almost 89,000 black teachers were teaching up to 2 million children in the South, particularly all around. Then we also know that in the South, between 30 to 50% of teachers in the segregated South in the 30s and 50s were black teachers. So black teachers were doing amazing work. Yes, they had less resources. Yes, they had less money. Yes, their school buildings weren't brand new and shiny, but they taught excellence, baby. We're talking about teaching students to their highest potential, as Vanessa Soto Walker would say. And so when we integrated schools, and I use that word loosely because we never truly integrated schools because one group came to the table and other group left. Mm-hmm. What we lost was an abundance of knowledge and caring and love and curriculum, and we lost teachers and we lost black principals by the droves. And we pretty much gutted black education at that very moment and a black teacher workforce at that very moment. And so here we are fumbling and scrambling. And by the 1980s, we start to see crime reform and education reform merge. And so there's a few entry points I would like, just your audience to understand. In the 1980s.
Hold that thought one second. I can see you about to get on a roll here, and I do not want to stop you. Let me do this, and when we come forward, I'm going to let you continue the role that you're on. You're listening to Dr. Bettina L. Love discussing her new book, Punished for Dreaming, right now on Tavis Smiley.
Unapologetically progressive, unapologetically black. You're tapped into Tavis Smiley.
Escalade IQ. This the intro to the all-electric Cadillac, perfected like Zoom. And on a full charge, you get 450 miles without the stop. Haiku. This is what I do. Daddy fat in the Lex since 92. Linked all the way back, panoramic roof. Come with 24-inch rim standard. Ooh, why? Shawty don't kill him. Cadillac diamond in the back, cold chillin'. And when I'm on attack, on the track is no ceiling. Sky's the limit. You hear me? Straight drop, no parachutes. Lay lines like a longitude and latitude. Deal it, beloved, clearly we're hustling. Bussin', truckin'. Cadillac.
For more on the Escalade IQ, visit Cadillac.com.
Available late 2024. GM estimate 450 mile range. On a full charge based on development testing and/or analytical projection. Consistent with SCHA 1634 revision 2017 MCT. Range subject to change prior to production. Annual rates may vary based on service factors, including ambience temperature, terrain, battery age, and condition loading, and how you use and maintain your vehicle.
KBLA Talk 1580. We've got a lot to talk about.
Maisha Cairo here with a quick recap from my time at JP Morgan Chase's Advancing Black Wealth Tour. There were speakers Ian Dunlap, Damon John, Lynn Richardson, MC Light, Don Kennedy, to name a few. Take a listen to what Justin Grant, Community Development Lead at Chase's Advancing Black Pathway, let's see what he had to say.
So I'm Justin Grant. I lead community development and national partnerships for JP Morgan Chase's Advancing Black Pathway strategy. And so we're focused on strengthening the economic foundation of black communities, and we're making targeted investments in programs like the Advancing Black Wealth Tour to help us get our tools and resources out to the community to drive sustained impact over time.
So when it comes to black and brown people, it sounds like Chase is making it their personal responsibility not only to facilitate these events, but to educate and provide resources. So, Mr. Grant, I have to ask, what does wealth building look like for the individual?
It's home ownership. It's having that freedom to be able to start your own business and create jobs in your community. And it's having that long-term plan towards retirement, having that vision for what you want your life to be, and you have the resources to actually live it.
I'm Aisha Cairo. Thanks for sticking around. That was my recap from Chase's Advancing Black Wealth Tour. First stop was here in LA, and they're taking it national.
Mom's early Alzheimer's diagnosis was hard to take.
And when I left the Evan-On, we decided together that it was time to see a doctor and make a plan.
Early detection gave us more time to seek out information and support as a family.
If you or your family are noticing changes, it could be Alzheimer's. Talk about seeing a doctor together. For more information, visit alz.org/time to talk. A message from the Alzheimer's Association and the Ad Council.
More honesty than you can handle. More empowerment than you can imagine. You're tuned in to Tavis Smiley.
Tavis Smiley and Dr. Bettina L. Love, who is the William F. Russell Professor at Teachers College at Columbia University, award-winning author. Her latest text is called Punished for Dreaming, How School Reform Harms Black Children and How We Heal. Moments ago, I asked her to give me a bit more of the genesis of this war on black children by our schools. She said earlier, in case you've just tuned in, that black folk writ large have been under attack from day one. So there's always been a war on black people, and if there's a war on black people, then clearly there's a war on black children. Her point was, though, that when our schools, though, are the persons who are ushering in this war and against children, that's a problem. Nobody sort of expects that. And she said to me that there were a number of entry points into this war on black children vis-a-vis its genesis. And you were just ramping up with one of those entry points in the 1980s, Dr. Love, so take it away.
Yeah, I appreciate that. So the 1980, you have the right, the Republican Party, really thinking about the ways in which public education is no longer needed. And they start to write reports. There's some humming, there's some buzz around what they think is the flaws in public education and why public education should be defunded, why it should be privatized. That's 1980. Ronald Reagan takes office 1982, and he declares a war on drugs, which we know is a war on black people. Mm-hmm. So that's 1982. 1983, Ronald Reagan releases this report called A Nation at Risk. Mm-hmm. Now, it's important to note that when I said that report in 1980 was already kind of written, before Reagan even takes office, they got the talking points for that report, and it pretty much goes into A Nation at Risk. And so A Nation at Risk is one of the most consequential education reports in probably the last 50 years. And what it says is that our educational system is failing terribly, and it is filled with misleading data, I would say skewed data, and some outright lies in this report. Mm-hmm. But they wanted to paint public education as badly as possible. And so what you start to see in the 80s is when they start to manufacture crises. So the war on drugs is a crisis that they manufacture. Then you have A Nation at Risk is a crisis that they manufacture. And the same year that A Nation Risk comes out, the DARE program comes out. Mm-hmm. Now, who creates the DARE program? Daryl Gates. Mm-hmm. Who was Daryl Gates? The police chief during the Rodney King execution massacre. They almost killed this man, right? He's the same police chief that says black people have different esophagus, so you can put them in the chokehold. It's okay. He's the man that creates the DARE program that goes nationally into schools to tell children there's good folks and there's bad folks, and those bad folks should be arrested. Not only that, I want you to snitch on your parents. So this becomes where we start to see the merging of crime reform and education reform merge. The next year, 1984, Reagan puts out another report called Chaos in the Classroom, where he's trying to argue that these kids are out of control. Again, misleading data that is actually coming from the 70s. And teachers are saying that's not really happening right now. But it's a far-gone conclusion. And in the back of all of this, you have the start 80s and 90s of super predators were called thugs, crack babies. And you start to see how education reform and crime reform merge to dispose of black children. The language is there. The crime reform policies are there. And they start to ooze in and sink into educational policies. So now we have schools that have zero tolerance. How do you have zero tolerance for children?
Exactly.
These are children. Children are supposed to have more tolerance than anybody because they just got here. How do you start to have schools that have no excuses? I'm a child. And so we start to see what happens when people pretty much disregard a generation of children. And here we are, right? I'm 44 years old. If you ask anybody in their 60s and 70s, they have no clue what we're talking about in education. Like, they have no clue about police in schools and charter schools and vouchers and high-stakes standardized testing, race to the top. You have No Child Left Behind, Teach for America, massive student loan debt. These things are since the last 40 years, Reagan and on. And what I argue in the book, I want to be very clear that each president since Reagan has had an educational agenda that has been anti-black in particular ways. And I don't mince words when it comes to Obama, to anybody else, because it's about our children. And so we have to be clear about what's happening if we're going to change the course of public education in this country. You got to name names, and you got to know what you're up against. And so this book names names and tries to help folks understand what is happening and how do we get here today.
As I said, there's a lot in this book. I know I was going to need the entire hour and then some. So let me get moving here. I got some work to do. Let me start excavating here. What you've already said. Let me start with this, and I'm going to run through a list of questions that are popping into my head just based on again what you've already laid out for us. Let me go back a ways first. When you said earlier that after Brown v. Board, we never really truly integrated schools. I mean, I think this is a smart audience. I think they understand that schools were never truly integrated. The question is, what was the impact of schools never being truly integrated?
That's a great question, and thank you for that. So we have to set the stage. So we have Brown versus Board of Education. We passed this legislation, and then it takes other Browns. Like, we don't talk about the second Brown because this country refused to integrate what researchers and lawyers call mass resistance. So you had school districts in Florida and Arkansas who closed school down for all children. They didn't just say black kids can't go to school. My own children, my own white children, I'd rather close schools down for every child rather than put these black children in the same classroom with my children. But what we also saw was the making of private school in this country. We didn't have a lot of private schools. After Brown versus Board of Education, you see a proliferation of private schools, and you see the government give them tax breaks and what we would call segregation academies. We also see a proliferation of the suburbs. Before Brown versus Board of Education, we didn't have, suburbs were there, but they weren't huge what they have now, but we had suburbs. Now, what's important to say is that where did they get the money to build those roads? Where did they get the money to create those suburbs? They took them from the city. So now you have black folks who are told, hey, integrate schools, and then the white folks, they leave and take their resources, take their property values, take tax money and tax dollars. And so here we are scrambling, talking about integration, and they have left. So I'm from Rochester, New York, born and raised, proud upstate New Yorker. And the city that I grew up in is 50% white. Currently, right now, 50% white. But Rochester's public schools, 10% white. That is what we mean by the hyper segregation, what folks out of UCLA call apartheid schools. Because you took the resources with you. You took the resources. You denied us to have black teachers. So now we have inexperienced teachers teaching our children. We have programs like Teach for America that say, hey, you can be a teacher. You can be a teacher. Just you got a college degree. You don't really need experience to teach with these kids. Come on, you can be a teacher. We have educational entrepreneurs who make money, big money, off of unproven experiments on black children in school every single day. When I say experiments, I'm saying curriculum that they don't understand, that has never been proven or tested, research that they have never been proven or tested. Where do they try this stuff out? On our children. So we are seeing and watching the impact of Brown play out. And what I say in the book is that we are in the revenge, because black folks did what was right for democracy. At that moment in time, for this country to call itself a democracy, it had to integrate schools. That's why the decision in the Supreme Court was unanimous. It had to. It was a testament that we were actually a democracy. How you going to go around the world telling the world what to do when you got segregated schools? And so at that time, this was political to integrate schools. And black folks were punished for the very idea that we would believe in integration.
Yeah. Let me ask you again. Too much running through my head here. Let me move. Let me move a little more swiftly here. Here's the first question: whether or not, not whether or not, but why? That may be a better phraseology. Why rather than whether? We have never recovered from the mass exodus of black educators.
That's a great question. So after Brown versus the Board of Education, you see policies change. You see school boards change policies for what it means to be a teacher. You start to see all these type of tests come in to be a teacher. So they changed the rules on what it means to be a teacher and how you become a teacher in this country. So they pretty much exclude black folks through policy to keep us out of the classroom. But I also want to be clear, the writing begins to be on the wall. So if I'm a black educator looking at what's happening 50 years ago and looking what's happening now, this has become a hard profession to sell. Also, with the climbing student loan debt, who wants to be $80,000, $90,000 in debt to make a job, to have a job that's going to pay you $35,000 a year? And we've also watched the deprofessionalization of education in this country. Right? We watch more standardized testing. We watch in the ways in which teachers have not been given tenure through charter schools. Teachers have been denied health care through charter schools. And we have schools in this country right now that don't have clean water. Like, this is the United States of America, and we have schools that don't have clean water. We have schools right now that air quality is creating learning disabilities. Could you think about sending your baby to a school where it doesn't have clean water and doesn't have clean air, and we're here in the United States of America right now? So what Erica Miner, one of my great colleagues out of Chicago, says, listen, teachers' working conditions are students' learning conditions. And when you have poor working conditions, it is hard to recruit and retain. Particularly teachers of color. Also, the point that I want to make is that teachers of color do invisible labor. When you are the one black teacher at your school, when you have all these little black faces looking at you, you are doing invisible labor. So you're also doing more labor and getting paid either the same or less. So this profession, systematically, teachers have been taken out, and symbolically, teachers have been taken out, because you can look and see this is a profession that this country has deprofessionalized.
I thought I heard, and if I didn't, you can back me off of this, but I thought I heard what I would term a subtle indictment of Teach for America. And if I heard that indictment subtly, then what I take away from that indictment is that it's not that some of these kids can't learn, it's that some of these teachers can't teach.
That's correct. And in the book, I'm not subtle. I might be subtle on the show, but in the book, I'm not subtle. But that's correct, right? There's some things that we just know as educators. There's some things we know, particularly as just human beings and common sense, right? You wouldn't let somebody build your house who had no experience. You wouldn't let somebody open up your heart who has no experience. Why do we do that with black children? That's first and foremost. Second of all, when you have students who have historically been denied access, right, we need the best teaching them. It's not that they can't learn, but if I need the most because I have been historically denied opportunities, my family has been historically denied opportunities, I don't need somebody who is just learning what to do. I need a veteran, baby. If I'm going to go to the championship, I need vets. And so right now, what you have in many cities who have students who have the most needs, you have novice, at times unseasoned teachers teaching them. And what we know that works is that you have small classrooms.
Yeah.
Right. I'm sure you probably reported on schools with 35, 40, like just common sense.
Yep.
Nobody can teach. I don't care who you are. 45 first graders. It's not going to work.
Yeah.
And then you're going to give somebody who's been in the classroom for a year. Mm-hmm. We have to be thinking, if these are the students who need the most, then they deserve the best. Yeah. They deserve the best teachers, the best working conditions, the best curriculum, if we are truly about the work of justice.
Yeah. I've got 2 minutes left here. We'll continue on the other side. I want to just get you started on this, and we'll, again, come forward with it. You had a pretty damning indictment, as you should have, of Ronald Reagan and what happened in his era with that nation at risk and classrooms and chaos, et cetera, et cetera. I could offer the same kind of indictment of George W. Bush for what he did on education. But the one thing I said on this program before that he was right about, 2 things George Bush did right in 8 years. One, he was really good on Africa policy, better, frankly, than Obama on Africa policy, if you know what I'm talking about, if you know the research on this. He was better, he was better than Obama on Africa policy. That said, he was also right, secondly, about a line he used that I loved, and the line is the soft bigotry of low expectations. That's what black children, I think, are up against every day, the soft bigotry of low expectations. I could argue him on the word soft, but whatever word you replace soft with, there is a kind of bigotry of low expectations when it comes to black kids. I think he was right about that. Do you think he was right about that statement?
Yes, but we're going to have to go a little bit further on George. But I do think he was right about that statement. But if I could add something to that statement really quickly. Sure. A researcher her name is Leslie Stewart, and she says it best, in my opinion. She says that this country believes that without white intervention, black lives are disposable and black lives are tragic. Mm-hmm. And I think that's really it, because, yes, the soft hand of bigotry, but he doesn't say who's doing that bigotry.
Got you. Yeah. No, that's a powerful point. And where I thought you were going with that, because these two things can certainly be linked, this notion that without white intervention, black lives don't really matter. That's also, I think, an indictment of Teach for America. And again, I don't want to just use a broad brush with them, but I know too many good white folk who've gone into that program out of some feeling that they're gonna save these black babies, right? Am I making sense to you?
Yes, I mean, like I said, they think our lives are tragic without them. Yeah. And so when you walk into a classroom and you don't know our history, you don't know what we have done. Yeah. If you don't know that, listen, there was no public education in the South without black folks. Du Bois says this in Reconstruction. Yeah. Right? They weren't even interested in educating their children. It was us who said, no, all children should have a free public education, particularly in the South. We did that. Yeah. So when you walk into the classroom and don't know you educated because of us, then you think less.
The book is called Punished for Dreaming: How School Reform Harms Black Children and How We Heal. A great deal more to unpack regarding this text when we come forward. I want to come right to this question. And she teed this up earlier. Dr. Bettina L. Love, the author of that book, did, our guest in this hour. We always talk in this country about defunding education. But when you say defund the cops, defund the police, all hell breaks loose. Why is that? Why are we okay with defunding education but not defunding police? I'm not suggesting that the latter is the appropriate response. I'm just asking a question. We will talk about defunding education but not defunding law enforcement. You're listening to Tavis Smiley.
This is getting good. Yeah, man. Tavis Smiley continues when we come forward.
If you're like me, 60 and retired, making ends meet, especially here at the supermarket and drugstore, is tough. I'm so blessed to have found benefitscheckup.org. It's a free and confidential website from the National Council on Aging that connected me to $1,200 a year in programs that help pay for food, medicine, utilities, and more. Maybe it can help you. benefitscheckup.org.
My daughter was diagnosed with a rare malignant rhabdoid tumor on the spine. They sent her straight to St. Jude. My hope was gone. But when you get there, everyone's like, hey, we're not going to give up. And when you see other people not giving up on your child, that makes all the difference in the world. When I found out I didn't have to pay, I was just grateful. They saved my baby's life.
Finding cures, saving children. Learn more at stjude.org.
I'm Mike Moore. Here's the latest from the Black Information Network. African-American Marvel actor Jonathan Majors' domestic violence trial is being delayed. It was set to begin in New York City Wednesday, but was rescheduled for next Friday, the 15th. Majors is charged with assaulting his then-girlfriend last March in New York City, causing bruising to her head and neck. The 33-year-old actor told police it was her who attacked him, but a judge issued a temporary order of protection for the woman. The Powerball jackpot continues to soar, with no grand prize winner in last night's drawing. The new jackpot now stands at $500 million. The cash value on that works out to $242.4 million. The next drawing is Saturday night, with the odds of winning roughly 1 in 292 million. And that's the latest. I'm Mike Moore from your 24/7 news source, the Black Information Network and BINnews.com.
See the busy drive on that 710, slow and go on the 60, and troubles in Mid-City, Santa Monica Freeway 10. West 10 as you get towards Normandy. A crash now cleared, but right around Vermont, a busy drive. Our 60 westbound, right as you get to Fairway Drive. Earlier wreck cleared, but we're loaded up here from the 57. Troubles in Long Beach on the 710 south at Del Amo Boulevard. Reported an accident, but they haven't said which traffic lanes, if any, are blocked. We do have that slow drive from Elise Florence. Studio City, stalled vehicle on the 101 south as you get towards Vineland. That is in the left lane, covered away from the Van Nuys area. A very busy drive.
Lowe's knows how to save pros time and money. Right now, get up to $1,500 off select major kitchen appliances because Lowe's knows savings. Lowe's knows pros. Valid 8/24 through 9/13. Exclusions apply while supplies last. See Lowe's.com for details.
Off clean feel, so I can accessorize with studs and not with mosquitoes. I can wear my classic white crop and flag panel jeans and know that I'm covered with 8 hours of not sticky, fragrance-free protection. Get your pre-party protection on with Off Clean Feel. SC Johnson.
This is the KBLA Sports Minute with Ray Richardson.
Come on, bad man. Today is the semifinal round in the women's bracket in the U.S. Open tennis tournament. Coco Gauff, the 19-year-old sister from Delray Beach, Florida, is making a strong run for her first Grand Slam title. Coco faces Karolina Muchova of the Czech Republic at 4 p.m. today in Arthur Ashe Stadium. The Rams made it official. Wide receiver Cooper Kupp will not play in their season opener Sunday at Seattle. Kupp is still trying to recover from a hamstring injury he suffered in training camp on August 1st. The Dodgers are 1-5 in September after losing by 7 last night in Miami. Dodgers pitcher Lance Lynn gave up 3 home runs in the 5th inning. Lynn has been tagged for 40 homers this season, tops in the major leagues. This is also a troubling time for Dodgers pitcher Julio Arias. Major League Baseball put him on administrative leave after his arrest Sunday for felony domestic violence. No debates, no speculation, just the info you need. That's your KBLA Sports Minute. I'm Ray Richardson on KBLA Talk 1580.
This is KBLA Talk 1580. Talk radio that's music to your ears. We're unapologetically progressive. KBLA Talk 1580.
Hey, this is Zoe Williams, the voice of reason from KBLA Talk 1580. Listen, if you're in the market for the best prices and the fastest delivery for custom-made roller shade, LA Custom Blinds is the place to be. Schedule a free estimate and they will come to your house, measure your windows, and bring a variety of fabrics to choose from. And then come back and install it all for free. The best part is that their factory is located right here in downtown Los Angeles, so they make the shades really fast. All you gotta do is go to lacustomblinds.com and schedule your free in-home estimate right now. Tell them Zoe Williams sent you.
Extended Family Outreach Ministry presents Praise Fest 2023, Worthy to be Praised Conference and Concert, September 23rd, 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. at the Redondo Beach Performing Arts Center. Morning worship, keynote address, and conference featuring women in creative arts ministry and leadership sharing our stories, His glory, giving all praise, honor, thanksgiving, and glory to God. Don't miss the afternoon Stand Up and Sing Praises concert with the Katinas, gospel singer Babby Mason, 3 daughters, and Kevin Click. That's Praise Fest 2023, Worthy to be Praised Conference and Concert, September 23rd, Redondo Beach Performing Arts Center. For more information and tickets, go to PraiseFest 2023 at Eventbrite.com. Plus, for the next 48 hours, use promo code KBLA48 to get your tickets free. You do not want to miss this day of praise. That's PraiseFest 2023 at Eventbrite.com.
helping to make you the most knowledgeable person in your circle of friends. This is Tavis Smiley.
Dr. Bettina L. Love is the William F. Russell Professor at Teachers College and Columbia University. Her new book is titled Punished for Dreaming: How School Reform Harms Black Children and How We Heal. We'll get to the healing part. I promise you between now and the time this conversation wraps, there is some healing that she recommends that we can engage. But I want to come back to this question again that I posed moments ago that I want to get your response to about why it is that we are so comfortable, my word, not yours, having a conversation perennially in this country, as it were, about defunding education. Certainly, where black children are concerned, we will jump quickly into a conversation about defunding education. But you say defund the police, then is what happens, right? So, what address that frame for me, if you will, that dichotomy.
Yeah, thank you for that question. I think the first thing goes back to what we believe is failing in our society.
Mm-hmm.
And so when most Americans don't believe that the police system is failing,
right?
And we have data that shows that. We have Pew study and research that shows that, at the height of, the marches and the protests and the uprisings over the killing of George Floyd and Breonna Taylor, like we saw this country say, hey, maybe we should think differently about policing. And then we have data that shows maybe 6 months, a year later, many folks are like, we good now. It's like, well, we didn't really do anything. And so what happens is that when you don't believe that this institution is in a crisis, then you don't want to defund it because you believe that it's working the way it was designed to work. And I think that's what many Americans believe when it comes to policing, is that we need police in this particular type of way, and this entity, this public service, is working for everybody. Now, you take something like education, and people say, well, why do we need to fund that? It's not even working. It's not even good. We're not getting what we want. But then in the same breath, when you ask most parents, do you like your kid's school? Yeah, I do. So it's always about this idea that, when it comes to education, it is something that is in crisis, is something that can't be trusted. And you're seeing right now the notion that teachers can't be trusted. They're teaching these things, but we don't want our children to know, with no evidence, with no data. But when you can create public chaos and public worry and public angst around a particular institution, then it's easy to say, well, we should defund it.
Yeah.
It's not working the way it was supposed to work. And so we can talk about education and defunding education because we have had decades of people making education out to be something that it isn't, for an opportunity to underfund it.
Yeah. What's your critique, Dr. Love, of the private interests that have infiltrated our education system?
Well, I want to be very clear to your listeners is that we are allowing a very small group of people to change the course of public education in this country. This is not widespread. This is not happening. I mean, we are allowing some rich, organized folks, some parents that got a lot of time on their hands to change the course of public education in this country. And what we're watching is governors and state representatives and school boards push this stuff through with no data. They can't give us any examples. And if they do have one example is not how you change a whole course. Because what you just said, if it was about one example, we would have changed policing a long time ago.
Mm-hmm.
So we are allowing a small group of people who are very organized and very well funded, who want to pretend like they're grassroots, but they're nothing of grassroots, to change the very course of education. But why are they doing this? They're doing this, again, to create chaos, because at the end of the day, the goal is to privatize education. And you can't privatize a public good unless you can explain to the public why that public good is no longer working. So this is a long, long game that they're playing.
Yeah.
It may seem new, but they have been working on this thing for a very long time. And what I would say to your listeners is put what's happening in education in conversation and what's happening around the United States. So we saw just the last Supreme Court setting, right? Affirmative action be gutted, women's rights be gutted, and education right now on a local and state level being gutted. Put them all in conversation, because the folks who are doing it are all in conversation.
Yeah. A couple of things I want to probe right quick here now. I want to come to local school districts. You mentioned local education. Tip O'Neill famously said all politics is local. We'll come to local school boards in a moment, and conservatives who are spending all their time. We're talking about Joe Biden and Donald Trump. They talking about school board elections because they know exactly what their agenda is. We'll come to that in a moment. We'll come to that in a moment here. But since you mentioned earlier, I don't want this hour to end with people thinking that you just shanked Barack Obama and didn't explain what your critique was. We don't want to shank the former president. So I will say to you up front that I had any number of arguments back in the day with Arnie Duncan. We went at it a few times, Arnie Duncan and I did, when he was education secretary under Barack Obama's friend. They played basketball together all the time. But Arnie Duncan and I had some tete-a-tetes back in the day. But give me your critique of the Obama administration and your point earlier that no president, frankly, has done anything good, or what they should at least, for black children in their presidency.
Yes, I think Barack Obama had good intentions, but good intentions don't necessarily always get impact. And so you bring up a very crucial name, it's Arnie Duncan. Arnie Duncan had no real success in Chicago. Many people who are in the education sector, we did not want someone like Arnie Duncan. But what happened when you brought Arnie Duncan in is that you not only brought him, but you brought a lot of cronyism in. So if anybody who was watching education at that time, and particularly the Department of Education at that time, they will tell you that Obama's Department of Education nickname was the Duncan Gates Reed Department of Education. So it was Arnie Duncan running things, Bill Gates running things, Michelle Reed out there doing all her unbelievable craziness and stunts in education. And then you have folks like Bill Gates who were coming up with the Common Core, where we don't know where that is now. You have merit pay. Now, let's stop at merit pay. Obama had a huge number of cheating scandals during his administration because of merit pay. One of the biggest cheating scandals in Atlanta, Georgia, where black teachers in Atlanta, Georgia, went to prison, went to jail.
That's right.
They sent black teachers to jail under his administration. He did nothing about it. Now, some of those teachers did cheat. I'm not going to sit here and lie. But do you think going to jail should be what you pay for changing some test scores? And then there were some teachers who were completely innocent, like Shawnee Robinson, who I talk about in the book, who has had her life turned upside down, suffering from PTSD because she's been out on bail for almost 10 years. At any day, she can go back. And so teachers were put in jail around the country for doing what we now know, what we think allegedly Michelle Reed did. But she was never indicted, never talked about. And so these were the policies under Barack Obama. Also, race to the top. How you going to race to the top with one leg tied behind your back? Never addressing true inequality. He gave grants, big-time grants. Now, the one thing I want to stop here and say is that those teachers who were put in jail in Atlanta, Georgia, for cheating on test scores, the state used those same inflated test scores to get a $400 million grant.
No.
So could you imagine sitting in jail? You are in jail because of some cheating on test scores, and you're watching these people parade around congratulating themselves for getting a $400 million grant because they raised the test scores with the same test scores you are indicted for and in jail for.
It'd be laughable if these black women weren't somebody's mama and grandmama and wife and sister and auntie, but that's how asinine some of this stuff is. But I just wanted you to hear her Obama critique. I didn't want you to think that she just threw that name out there and there wasn't something behind it. Now you know. More when we come forward with Dr. Bettina L. Love on Tavis Smiley.
More of Tavis Smiley when we come forward.
What is dedication?
My biggest fear in the middle of my addiction was that my kids wouldn't have a father. And I started thinking, you know what? This isn't my story. I definitely had to become a better man to be a better father. It's important to me that my kids are empowered and truly believe that if they can think it, they can do it.
That's dedication. Visit fatherhood.gov to hear more. Brought to you by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services and the Ad Council.
Joey from Vermont, a farmer trying to get through the winter. Adriana from South Carolina, a single mother living paycheck to paycheck. Liam from Ohio, an injured father struggling to provide for his family. Hi, I'm Shanola Hampton. And I support the Feeding America network of food banks because they help provide over 6 billion meals to people in need each year. Learn more at feedingamerica.org.
For all of us, this generation and the next, there is simply no place in our lives for litter. And yet, it's everywhere we look. And unfortunately, it does belong to all of us. So, let's come together and create a litter-free, clean California, once and for all. Remember to properly dispose of your trash and recycling. Secure truckloads with tarps to keep debris from flying out. Clean out your car when you're at a gas station. Take pride in your community by organizing a cleanup event. Or join a cleanup event near you. Zero litter is the goal. Join us at cleanca.com. That's cleanca.com. Let's do it together. Brought to you by Caltrans. cleanca.com. The California Crusader newspaper would like to thank all of our subscribers for their support throughout the years, proudly serving the South Los Angeles and South Bay areas for more than 40 years. The California Crusader is a multicultural, black-owned, adjudicated newspaper that focuses on providing newsworthy information to the people in our community. We're constantly looking for ways to assist businesses in our community to connect with our subscribers. We provide low-cost, effective ways to promote your business with our reasonable and affordable advertising rates. You can participate by suggesting, sharing, and submitting your stories on the California Crusader newspaper Community Share Facebook group page, or visit our website at cal-cruise-news.com. That's calcruisenews.com. Then click on the Submit Now button located on the top right corner of the homepage, or text CCN to 42828. Again, text CCN to 42828. The California Crusader newspaper, working together to build a better community for our future. Subscribe today.
Made fresh daily in Leimert Park, Los Angeles, California. You're listening to Tavis Smiley.
Tavis Smiley and Dr. Bettina L. Love. Shakespeare once famously asked, "What's in a name? What's in a name?" How cool is it, Dr. Love, to have love as a last name?
You know, people ask me all the time, did I change my name? Is that my real name? That's my daddy's name. That's my daddy's name. I'm so proud to have it and pass it down to my children. So, yeah, it's my real name.
No, Love is a cool last name to have. I ain't mad at your daddy. You heard me say moments ago that I want to talk briefly here about these conservatives. We are in a presidential election season. Lord help us all. We are in this season, and don't I know it? I'm talking about it every day, whether I want to or not. And yet, I am not unmindful that while we are focused on the national election of the next president of these United States, conservatives have been and are now more aggressively targeting school board races. I'm not naive in asking this, but why do you think that is?
Well, you know, I think at a certain point they understand that real power, real change, faster change happens on a local level. And if you need any proof of that, you know, in a matter of 18 months, they were able to pass over 115 critical race theory bans, book bans, legislative bans, right? The federal government can't move that fast.
Mm-hmm.
And so they understand where change can happen quickly, swiftly, and without little resistance. And so you're watching them organize through very well-funded channels on a very local level because they understand that is where policy can happen quickly and they can get in the door for pennies on the dollar, right? We're talking about $1 billion are going to be spent on this presidential election. I can get in the door as a school board member for about $5,000, okay?
Mm-hmm.
So they understand that for pennies, they can execute their agenda quick, effectively, and for less money.
Yeah.
So local, 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 local.
Yep. Let's start this conversation now about the latter part of your subtitle, How We Heal. Again, in case you've just tuned in, the book that Dr. Love, Bettina L. Love, has written, is called Punished for Dreaming. Love that title, Punished for Dreaming, How School Reform Harms Black Children and How We Heal. Let's talk about the healing, Dr. Love.
Yeah, so I wanted to be bold in this book. I think we need bold solutions for these unbelievable times. And the thing about the book is that I just don't talk about educational policy. Like it is a book about policy, but I use the lives of 25 Black Americans to tell the stories. So in between the policy conversations, our stories of real people, and we see the harm that educational policy played out in their life. And if you believe and if you understand and if you're rocking with me through like 11 chapters that these things are harmful, then you have to be thinking to yourself, what is repair? How would you repair this harm? And too often in schools, we talk about data points and gaps. I'm saying it's harm. And so if we think about it as harm, then for me, harm means repair. And what does repair mean? Reparations. So what have we thought about educational reparations? So you think about California right now. California's on the verge of maybe doing something serious about reparations. But education isn't a lever. It's in recommendations, and they have a great list of what they recommend and what they could do, but it's not actually a lever. So when you think about what the levers of reparations are, it's typically mass incarceration, what I would call, Erica Miner calls targeted mass incarceration. It wasn't mass. They didn't target they target some people. It is police brutality, right? It is the devaluing of Black homes, devaluing of Black businesses, being denied a home loan, being denied a business loan. Like, those are what we see as the levers for reparations. But what I would argue is that before you are denied a home loan, before you are denied a business loan, you are educated in American schools as a Black child.
Hold that thought. When we come forward in our remaining moments with Dr. Love, we'll get her definition then of educational reparations. You're listening to Tavis Smiley.
You're listening to Tavis Smiley. Tavis Smiley. Ranked number 45 on the Heavy 100 list of the 100 most important radio talk show hosts in America.
What's up, party people? It's your favorite MC's favorite rapper, MC Light here. And we're celebrating 50 years of hip-hop, authentically powered by Cadillac. And we're going to take it way back to where it started. It was only fitting that hip-hop began with teenagers at a back-to-school jam in the rec room of a South Bronx apartment complex by an 18-year-old brother. By the way, I'm also sure he had a Cadillac parked outside. He noticed the energy on the dance floor when they switched between two turntables, extending the beats, repeating the breaks, and never losing the rhythms. And that was the birth of hip-hop. And from that moment, it took off.
For more on how Cadillac is celebrating hip-hop's 50th, visit Cadillac.com/audacity.
Hey, Dad, how do airplanes fly? What's in this box? Is this tree good for climbing? How are babies made? What does this thing do?
Kids are curious about everything, including guns. Talking to them about gun safety in your home is a good first step, but you can do more. Always keep your guns locked, unloaded, and stored separately from ammunition. Safe gun storage saves lives. Learn how to make your home safer at endfamilyfire.org. That's endfamilyfire.org. Brought to you by End Family Fire, Brady, and the Ad Council.
KBLA Talk 1580. We've got a lot to talk about.
KBLA Talk 1580 joins you in standing for voting rights. When We All Vote is a leading national nonpartisan initiative on a mission to change the culture around voting and to increase participation in each and every election by helping to close the race and age gap. Created by Michelle Obama, When We All Vote brings together individuals, institutions, brands, and organizations to register new voters across the country and advance civic education for the entire family and voters of every age to build an informed and engaged electorate for today and generations to come. When We All Vote empowers their supporters and volunteers to take action through voting, advocating for their rights, and holding their elected officials accountable. Please visit whenweallvote.org to stand up for your rights, voting rights. This is a community call to action from KBLA Talk 1580.
When my family does Walt Disney World Resort, we do it big.
Bippity boppity big, like Cinderella Castle.
Uh-huh, big, like those juicy turkey legs from Gaston's Tavern.
It doesn't get any bigger than the Tam Tam Drummers. Get it, Grandma?
Yeah, and big like Goofy's kicks. Oh, yeah?
Yep.
It's your world, so do it big at Walt Disney World Resort.
Let's get back to more of this rich dialogue with Tavis Smiley.
I got about 4 minutes left here, Dr. Love. Take it away on defining educational reparations as you write about in your book, Punished for Dreaming.
Yeah, thank you so much for this opportunity. I'm really grateful. I would just say, when it comes to reparations, we have to look at the harm that's being done and not to just see it as a data point, see it as, oh, that's terrible, to see it as harm and repair. And I'll just give your audience one data set. In 2010, there were 100,000 black students who qualified for AP classes. They qualified. They had the test scores, they had the grades, and either they were not recommended or they didn't have AP at their school. Mm-hmm. Now, those 100,000 students will go off to college and pay more in their student. They will pay more in student loans because they're not able to transfer those credits in. That's reparation. Mm-hmm. In New York City, you can suspend a child 120 days. It's only 180 days in a school year. Now, when you suspend a child, everybody gets paid. When you suspend a child, you don't send them home with a computer, a teacher, a tutor, food, supplies. What if we suspend a child? You got to give a check. You think they'll suspend black children the way they suspend black children? We have to see these things as, and I want to say this, when you don't graduate, when you are pushed out of public education, when you don't graduate, that impacts your overall life earnings, the potential of your overall life learning. And when you have a black teacher in the classroom, as a young black boy in grades 1st through 3rd, when you have a black teacher in the classroom, the likelihood that you will graduate increases by 32 to 39%. Wow. So not having black teachers in the classroom, that is economically transforming your life. These should be levers of reparations, not just banking, not just the wealth gap, but it's education, because education is the hallmark of democracy. And if black folks are not able to be a part of democracy through education, that is reparation.
Out of time here, basically. I've heard a number of people over a number of years doing what I do in the media who have threatened to start an aggressive Saturday school program across the country. I've not seen it as yet. What do you make of that idea, though?
What I would say to anybody is that black folks have always educated their babies. Mm-hmm. Always. Newly freed slaves, while we were enslaved, we have never stopped educating our children. And so if it's a Saturday school, if it's after school, if it's at the church in the basement, we're going to educate our babies. Mm. So they can ban what they want to ban. But we have never once stopped putting education as a lever for liberation in our lives. And so we will always do what we have to do.
In the 30 seconds I have left, what do you make of the fact, again, we're in a political campaign season, so we'll get some rumblings about this, a little talk around the edges. But why is there little national conversation about a structural overhaul of our school systems?
They're not interested. Yeah. And we have to be very clear. They're not interested. And I really think there's so many issues going on in our society right now, from climate change to we're seeing everybody striking. Yeah. We have a president that's like a former president with 91 indictments. There's a lot going on right now. And so education is working for those who are in power. Yeah. And so they have no need to change what is happening. And many of them are profiting off of the failure of black children because it's by design.
There's a war on black children, no question about it, according to Dr. Bettina L. Love. Her new book is called Punished for Dreaming, How School Reform Harms Black Children and How We Heal. What a spirited and insightful conversation, Dr. Love. I love that last name, and I love this conversation. I appreciate it. Thank you for your time.
Oh, thank you for having me on. I really appreciate it.
A great honor to have you. More of Tavis Smiley when we come forward.
KBLA 1580 Santa Monica.
I'm Mike Moore. Here's the latest from the Black Information Network. African-American Marvel actor Jonathan Majors' domestic violence trial is being delayed. It was set to begin in New York City Wednesday, but was rescheduled for next Friday, the 15th. Majors is charged with assaulting his then-girlfriend last March in New York City, causing bruising to her head and neck. The 30